knew her ritual. No one ever came close enough to discover the truth. But each time her voice filled the room, his heart would pound. His breathing shifted ever so slightly, and the machines whispered their subtle protests. Did he truly hear her? Was it a miracle or just coincidence? They only met in darkness, in room 407. The clock above the doorway seemed forever. Stuck on 2:43 a.m., that strange hour when the world held its breath, when time itself moved slower, when only the souls refusing to rest stirred awake, Emma slipped through the door like a secret, leaving the lights off. She didn't need them anymore. Over months, she had learned to move like a whisper in this place, her shoes barely clicking against the tiles. Her breath measured, her steps memorized, especially here on the 5th floor, where silence was law and every sound was a trespass. She was the only black nurse on the floor, an unspoken fact that hung in every hallway, every meeting, every sidelong glance, place where most decisions were made by white men with polished name tags, white coats starched so stiff they might shatter, and eyes trained to judge without ever blinking. Their smiles were courteous, their words clipped, their approval scarce. Emma had learned to survive. Under their gaze, she had trained herself to silence, to perfect posture, to invisible service, but none of that mattered to her at this moment. She only cared about Lucas, the man in the bed, the man she had never spoken to, the man she had somehow shared her whole life with, night after night. Through the fragile thread of song, she slipped off her thick white coat like shedding armor, revealing the simple cotton uniform beneath. The gesture was a ritual. She never sang with a code. On it felt too heavy, too clinical, as if it would choke the sound before it left her throat. Her hands trembled, not from cold, but from the weight of emotions she had buried so deep they had taken root inside her. Bones. Lucas, she whispered softly, the name fragile on her tongue. It was like calling someone across the veil, summoning a soul from the other side. It's raining tonight, just like the first night I came. And then she began to sing. Her voice was slow, soft, almost breaking. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. It wasn't just a song, it was a prayer. Not singing, but reaching. A voice thrown across the void, calling out between two worlds, one of waking, one of dreaming. Inside the dim, flickering world behind Lucas's eyelids, a dream began to form. He stood in a blinding white space, with no walls, no ceiling, nothing. But emptiness, stretching forever. Yet through that void, a sound, her sound echoed. A voice pulling him upward, guiding him out of the silence. He couldn't see her face, but he knew. This was the safest voice in the world. His fingers twitched. Outside, Emma kept her eyes closed, unaware. The machines at his bedside flickered. Awake, the monitor blinked. Heart rate climbing, blood vessels dilating. Sweat began to gather at his temple. One finger jerked. A soft thud. His arm bumped the bed rail. Emma's eyes flew open. She turned quickly, heart in her throat. But Lucas lay still, unmoving, just like every night. I thought maybe you'd respond, she said with a sad smile. That's okay. Keep singing, even if the world doesn't believe I should. She pulled the blanket gently over him, her fingers pausing at his temple. The faint sheen of sweat caught her eye.
1 second, 2.
Then she exhaled and let out a quiet laugh to herself. It's warm in here, isn't it? Emma turned away, closed the door softly behind her, and disappeared into the hallway. She didn't see his lips move. Didn't hear the whisper he almost made, the words that never found sound. Sing again the next morning. Before the sun had crept over the gray edges of the city, Emma returned to the hospital. But this time not to sing, only out of duty or at least the stubborn belief that she still had the right to show up. Her footsteps were light. Careful as always, but something felt different. The air itself seemed colder, the stares from her colleagues sharper, colder still. In the nurse's break room, Tina was waiting. Blonde hair perfect, uniform pressed so sharply, it looked cut from glass. In her hands, a file folder. The chief. Wants to see you, Tina said, Voice sugar on the surface, sour underneath. Emma nodded, asking nothing. She already knew. She knew the look. She knew the whispers that followed her down the hall. She knew what it meant to be the only one like her in a place that had already judged her long before she spoke. She knew that if a black woman was caught singing lullabies to a comatose white man, it would never just be about the singing. The chief's office was cold, sharp, stripped of life. Dr. Rawlings sat behind his desk. Lab coat starched, as stiff as his moral compass. He flipped through the file without even looking at her. "Nurse Emma Duval," he said flatly. "Are you aware you violated patient care policy?" I stayed to check on a patient's condition," she began, voice trembling. To check, he finally looked up, eyes like steel, or to sing. Silence pressed the walls closer. Emma swallowed hard, eyes fixed on her own hands. The same hands that had rested on Lucas's chest, memorized the rhythm of his heartbeat. "Better than any machine?" "I sang to him," she said quietly, "because I believed he could hear me." Rawlings scoffed. "We don't get paid to believe. We get paid to follow protocol." The suspension was signed in under 4 lines of dialogue. 7 days. For review, but how do you review an incident? That night, Emma didn't return to room 407. Instead, she sat alone in her small, dim apartment. No streetlight reached inside. Her hands trembled on the table. Her chest felt like a symphony that had gone off tempo. "Lucas," she whispered out of habit. But there was no one left. To hear, at the hospital, room 47 was colder than ever. Lucas began to twitch. The monitor erupted into panicked beeps, heart rate erratic, oxygen levels dropping. Nurses rushed in, confusion spreading like fire. No one knew what was happening. No one realized the invisible thread between Lucas and Wad. Emma had just been severed. No one except Lucas himself, whose body was not reacting to medicine. But to the sudden absence of a voice, Lucas's condition grew worse after Emma was suspended. The other nurses tried their best, but something was missing. The machines kept flashing alarms at night. His heartbeat would spike, then slow, as if searching for something unseen. Doctors were confused. "It doesn't make sense," they muttered. "There's no medical reason for this instability," but Emma knew. She sat in her small apartment, sleepless, hands over her face. Deep inside, she knew Lucas was reacting not to medicine, but to her absence. 7 days felt like 7 years. When her suspension ended, Emma returned, but under strict orders. No singing, no unnecessary behavior, only routine care. She obeyed outwardly, but in her heart, she could not let go. Instead of singing, she began speaking to Lucas softly while changing his IV or adjusting his blanket. She told him about her day, about the weather, about the fear of being watched. Her voice was calmer now, but still full of warmth. One night, while she whispered, she noticed his fingers twitch again. This time she was sure. She leaned closer. "Lucas? Can you hear me?" The monitor beeped faster, heart rate climbing. Emma pressed his hand gently. Tears filled her eyes. From that night, she started talking to him every shift. And slowly, his body began responding. The awakening, weeks later, a miracle happened. Lucas's eyelids flickered open. His pupils moved, focusing weakly on the ceiling. Emma was there, whispering as always. "Lucas, it's me, Emma." A single tear slid from the corner of his eye. His lips trembled. A broken sound escaped more breath than voice. Emma gasped. She grabbed his hand, holding it tightly. "You don't have to speak yet. Just blink if you can hear me." His eyelids closed, then opened. Once, twice. Emma burst into quiet sobs. For the first time, he had answered her. Doctors declared it a medical turning point. They ordered daily therapy sessions, speech therapy, physical therapy. The road ahead was long, but hope had returned, and Emma was by his side for every step. Therapy days at first. Lucas could only move his fingers and blink. Then his hands began to grip objects weakly. Emma celebrated every small victory as if it were a miracle. When he tried his first words in therapy, his voice cracked like dry wood. "H, Hello. Emma laughed and cried at once. Hello, Lucas. You did it. His speech grew slowly broken, but determined. His first full sentence came one quiet afternoon when Emma helped him practice. You never left me. She froze. Tears blurred her vision. She pressed his hand to her cheek. No, Lucas, I never will. Love and silence as months passed. Therapy turned into companionship. They talked for hours. At first about simple things, the weather, his exercises, the hospital food. But slowly, deeper truths surfaced. Lucas confessed how he had once been a teacher, how he loved books, how he missed the sound of rain on cabin windows. Emma confessed how hard it was to be the only black nurse on the floor, how lonely her nights were, how singing was the only thing that kept her soul alive. Their bond grew stronger than rules, stronger than fear. Late one evening, when the halls were empty, Lucas looked at her with eyes that finally held light again. His voice was still shaky, but his words were clear. Emma, you saved me. Her breath caught. She tried to hide her tears with a smile. No, Lucas, you saved me too. The proposal 1 year after he woke, Lucas was walking with support. He still needed therapy, but his spirit was alive. One evening, he asked Emma to take him to the hospital garden. The air smelled of fresh rain. The world was quiet. Lucas reached into his pocket with trembling fingers. A small silver ring glistened in his palm. Emma, he whispered, voice breaking, will you? Marry me. Her hands covered her mouth. Tears rolled down her face. She nodded, unable to speak. Then finally, she whispered back, yes, 1,000 times, yes. Their kiss was soft, fragile, like two souls finally allowed to breathe the same air. The tragedy, but fate was not kind. Weeks later, Lucas's health suddenly collapsed. His heart began to fail without warning. The doctors fought to save him, but Emma knew the truth the moment the alarms rang. She held his hand as machines screamed around them. Stay with me, Lucas. Please, stay. His lips moved weakly. Sing for me. Her voice broke, but she obeyed. Through tears, she sang the lullaby that had first connected them. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine, she sang. His breathing slowed. His grip loosened. A final tear slid from his eye, and then silence. Emma screamed, clutching his body, refusing to let go. But her cries filled the hospital halls. The love she had fought for was gone. The cabin months later, Emma left. The hospital. She couldn't walk the halls without hearing his voice in her memories. She moved to a small cabin near the woods one Lucas had once described in his dreams. There, every night at 2:43 a.m., she lit a candle and sang to the silence. Not because she believed he could hear her, but because singing kept him alive inside her. Her voice filled the empty cabin, floated into the night, and vanished into the stars. And though the world thought it was only grief, Emma knew the truth. Love like theirs never truly dies. It only changes shape from voice to memory, from song to eternity.